What's up guys, Bua Davis here. Today I want to teach you how you can make this simple little game in Unity 2D, and we will talk about characters, enemies, respawning them, uh, bullets, and a lot more. And even if you are a complete beginner, you can still follow along because I will make it everything as simple as possible. If you like my content and want to see more videos like this, please like this one and subscribe to my channel. It will be always greatly appreciated. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, I have this new 2D scene and we will be working today here. And as you see, I prepared some assets for us to use today. Those ones are just free assets, and I will leave links to all of them in the description down below so you can use them. But if you have some other assets in mind, you can use them as well because process will be completely same. But I prepared some floppy dragon pack for us, and it will act like our main character. And as you see, it has 4 sprites. It means that it has some animation, and in this case animation is just wing movement. And first let's drag our frame first one, and see how it looks like. And as you see, it looks quite big for now. So what we can do, we can select this frame one more time, and in the inspector you will see this pixels per unit, which is set to 100, just default value. And we can change sizing by changing this pixel per unit. For example, if we say that we want 256 and hit apply, our bird will get smaller. So let's select all of them from the frame 2 to frame 4 and change pixels per unit to be 256. So all 4 of them will have same size. And now let's first delete this. And instead, what we can do, we can select all 4 of them and just drag it into our scene. And this window will pop up because it wants to know where to save animation. I want to change folder, but I will change name to be player anim. And if we hit save, as you see, our animation is created and our player now has this animator controller. But first, let's rename this to be player, and I think our player still looks quite big, and let's resize it. If we hit player and go in the inspector, you will see the scale mode, and it allows us to change scaling of our player. And we can say here we want 0.6 0.6 for X and Y, and it made our character smaller, and Z does not matter in this case because we are in the 2D space. Okay, let's save this scene and let's hit play and see what animation it has. And as you see, our wings are moving. This is just default animation of our character. And let's continue working on our player because it needs few components in order to work fine. And you will see in the inspector this button of add component, and if we hit this add component, you will see all these elements, and we can add a lot of things here, but we want to have some physics because we want to control our forces. And for that, in the search box we can type rigid body, and they are rigid body and rigid body 2D. Obviously we need 2D version, so hit rigid body 2D, and it will add some physics elements, some gravity, and we are able to add some forces to our player with physics. And in the constraints, we want to freeze rotation for our player on the Z axis because we don't need any weird rotational movement for our player. And one more thing that I'm gonna add, our player needs some kind of collider in order to collide and interact with other game objects, for example with our enemies or traps or obstacles. So if we go in the physics 2D, you will see this all of those colliders, but instead we can also type in the search box for the polygon collider, and I think this polygon collider will work fine. As you see, it adds these green lines, and don't worry, it's only seen into our scene, but into our game it won't be shown, of course. And our player, I think, is ready. And now let's work on little bit on our environment so we can have some background. And I have this background pack, which has this background image. We can drag this image into our scene. We can select this rect tool right here and to make this little bit bigger just to cover all of the screen. By the way, I changed the resolution of my screen. It was on the free aspect by default, and I made it in full HD because most of the games are done in this resolution. So our background, I think, is too loud. So what I'm gonna do, I will select our background, and in the color, let's hit color and let's make it a little bit darker like this. Of course, you don't have to do it, but I just like it better. And now we are ready to go and make our player to do something. The way our game will work, we gonna be able to control our player up and down movement. And when I change this up and down movement, as you see, our position on the Y axis in the inspector change. Just have a look while I'm changing our player's position. So we want to be able to control our player's Y axis. And for that, we need obviously to make some script. Now I have made folder for our scripts, and if you don't know how you can make folders, just in the assets folder, hit on the empty space and you will see this create and folder. Just name it scripts, and then let's open our scripts, and I have all of these empty scripts for us prepared. And if you don't know how to make scripts, go in the scripts folder, hit on the empty space, create C# script, and name your first script player with a capital P. And then we should assign our script into our player. And to do it, we can just take this script and just drop it into our player, or alternatively, we can select our player, scroll down in the inspector and hit this add component, and in the search box we can type name of our script. In our case it's player, hit enter, and it will add script. Now we can double click our player script and start working in it. So first of all, we need to add some variables. We need reference for our rigid body, which is our physics component. So I will say rigid body and I will name it RB. And in the start, when our game starts, we need to get this rigid body in order to use it. So we can say RB equals get component, and the component name is rigid body 2D. Don't forget parentheses and semicolon. And what we have done, we just assign our RB to be our rigid body, and now we can use this RB very simple way. And next thing that we gonna make is public vector2 for our jump force, and we will control it from the inspector. And in the update, this update runs every frame. So here we can say that when we are touching, for example, space button, we want to make something. We want to jump, for example. And to do it, we can say if input dot get button down, and in parentheses we can say jump, because in Unity name of this button of space is jump. Just make sure to type everything correctly, because otherwise it won't work. And when we are pressing this jump button, we want to add some forces to our player. So we can say rb.add force, and in the parentheses we can say this jump force, which is our vector2, which we will be controlling from the inspector. And if we save this script now, to save your script, you can click on the Control S or Command S if you are on Mac. And if we go back in Unity, let your script compile, and let's see. First, we need to assign this vector to our player. So let's open this player, scroll down, and you will see this jump force. We don't need to change the X because we are not controlling a horizontal movement. We only want vertical movement. So let's say on the Y 500, for example, and if we hit play now, you will see that we are able to move up when I'm touching space key. But as you see, our player has some weird blinking thing going on. And this is because our player and our background are on the same layer. And we want our background to be behind our player. And to do it, we can select our background, and you will see in the inspector this ordering layer, which is set to 0. Right now, our player has same order. And let's change background's order to be -1. This way, our background will be behind our player. So if we click play right now, you will see that we don't have this blinking thing going on anymore, and our player is looking good. Okay, next thing that we are gonna do is to control our player not to fly too high or too low, because when we fly too high or too low, right now, as you see, we don't have any control when we fly up or down. It just continues flying. What instead we can do that when our player flies too high or flies too low, we can restart our level very easily. Actually, all we need to do, we should check our Y position when we are out of screen. So let's drag our dragon outside of the scene where is no longer where we no longer see our player, and check what is the Y. So it's 5.7. Just remember this 5.7 for you, and let's see what it looks like on -5.7. Yeah, I think it looks fine. So our point will be 5.7, but you should check yourself because your numbers might be different. And so when we are on the 5.7 on the y-axis, we are outside of the screen, and same when we are on the -5.7, we are outside of the screen. So we can go back into our player script, and very easily here after our input, we can say that if transform dot position dot y. Now this transform dot position just means that these transform elements of position of the y is greater than 5.7. So when we are outside this 5.7, what we can do, we should restart our level, as I mentioned. For it, we should first have add some here on the top using Unity Engine scene management, because we are going to work with our scenes. And here we can say that scene manager dot load scene, and with the index of 0. And I will tell you what is this index 0. But first, let's do same for our -5.7. So we can say that else if transform dot position dot y, and this case we should say less than -5.7, and in the brackets we can say that, oh, something happened. Okay, parenthesis, and we can say same scene manager dot load scene with the index of 0. And let's save this scene, and I will talk what we have done. So when our player is outside of our 5.7 and -5.7 mark, we are doing this this method. And if we go in the file build settings, you will see that we have the scenes in build, and here we will have every scene that we want to have be in our game. And right now only one scene is in our build settings, and this is our current scene. By the way, if yours is empty, just click on the add open scenes and it will add your current scene. And as you see, it has this index 0. So when we are outside of our borders, our scene will reload basically very easily. We can save this scene and let's test it out and see if everything works fine. And let's fly up, and as you see, our game really restarts. And let's check down. Yes, when we are outside our minus 5.7, our game restarts. Very good. We are going forward, and next thing that we are gonna do, we will add these barrels into our game. So let's drag it here into our game. First of all, it needs also to have some kind of collider, otherwise it won't work simply. And to do it, we should say let's add polygon collider to it as well. And that's it. Let's see how it looks like. And by the way, if we hit play right now, you will see that we are able to land on our barrel. So it looks fine. But I want this barrel to have automatic left side movement. So I want it to go like this. And for it, we need to make script for our barrel. And in the scripts folder, let's create another script. Well, I already have script for it, and the script name in my case is move left. You can name it move left as well or something else. Just make sure to attach your screen into your barrel. And let's drag our move left script. Let's check if it's there. Yes, indeed, we added it. So let's open it in the Visual Studio and see if everything looks fine. And let's start working on it. Just empty script, and here we will need one variable, public float, and let's name it move speed. And we don't need the start, so we can delete the start, and in the update we can say what we want to do. We want our transform dot translate, so we are changing position to be vector free dot right. No, we want the vector free dot left because we want left side movement times time dot delta time for some time frame, and we should multiply it by move speed to have some kind of speed, and after it we can say space word. And if we hit save right now, with this simple line of code, you will see that our barrel will be able to move automatically, which is cool. But let's your script compile and see. If we select our barrel and if we scroll down, you will see that it has move speed, which is set to 0. We should change it to be something like 3. And let's hit play. And as you see, our barrel is going on the left side, and it will go until we stop our game, which is fine. But I want to have these different barrels, a lot of barrels actually. And what we can do, we can just duplicate it 1,000 times and just place them into our scene, but it will be very bad for our performance when all of the barrels will be on the same time into our game. And instead, we want to have some more advanced respawning. And for that, what we can do, we can create empty. So hit on the empty space in the hierarchy, create empty, and let's name it game manager. And it will handle our script. That's why we created. And we want some one more empty game object. So let's do create empty. And let's name it respawn point. And let's place our respawn point, for example, around here. And the way everything will work, we will have this respawn point, and from this point our barrels will be respawning automatically and will be going into our scene. We can have some random range of numbers to respawn them correctly, and for that we need obviously new script. So let's create new C# script. I called it respawn. You can call it anything you want. Just make sure to assign your script into your game manager, game object, empty. And let's open in Visual Studio and see what we can do here. First, we need two references. So we need public game object for our obstacle. And this will be for our barrel itself. And second of all, we need public transform for our spawn point, which we just created, our empty game object of spawn point. And we should use here coroutines. They are special methods. They run externally until we say them to stop. And basically, we can create loops out of it, and to create coroutine we need enumerator. So type here enumerator and let's name it respawn obstacle, for example. And here we can have some while loop. So we can say while true and it will run forever, basically, you can say. So while true, we can create some random range of numbers. For it, we should create new float. So in here we can say float wait time, which will be equal random.range. This random.range allows us to have some range between two numbers. For example, if we say here 2f and 4f, it will mean that from our respawn point, our barrels will be respawned randomly after 2 seconds, 4 seconds, in this range. Basically, one might respawn after 2 seconds, one might respawn after 3 seconds, and so on. And this is very handy method to have automatic respawning very easily. Now here we can say yield return new wait 4 seconds, and in the coroutines this method is used very often because in the parentheses we can type, for example, 2, and it means that we will have some delay time of 2 seconds, but we don't need to manually type here something. We want our wait time to be there. That's exactly why we created this float of wait time, to store information about our range of numbers, range of time in our case. So here we can say wait time, and after it we want to actually instantiate, actually create into our scene what? Our game object with the name of obstacle. So type here obstacle. We also need position of our obstacle, which will be our spawn point dot position, and it also needs rotation, but we don't need any rotational movement. So instead we can say quaternion dot identity, which means that we don't have any kind of rotation. And after it, in the start, we can actually run our coroutine. And to do it, we can say start coroutine. And in the parentheses, we can say name of our enumerator, which is respawn obstacle. Respawn obstacle, one more parenthesis. We need semicolon, and that's it. We can save the script and go back in Unity and see if everything works fine. So let's let our script compile. Let's go back. First of all, in the game manager, we should assign this obstacle and spawn point. And for obstacle, we need to create prefab from our barrel. And prefabs are just game objects which can be used a lot of times. and they are handy, and very easily we can drag our barrel from our hierarchy to our assets folder. So let's drag it here, and as you see, it's now blue, change color, and it's blue now. And we also have here our prefab. So let's delete this from our scene. We don't need it. And in the game manager, let's drag our created prefab here in the empty slot for our obstacles. And for our spawn point, we have this respawn point. Now let's drag our respawn point there. And let's see. For a moment, I will hide my player not to restart my level and to be able to see what it looks like. Let's go in the scene view and see. And as you see, our barrels are indeed created. And they are created randomly between 2 and 4 seconds, which is great. And everything works fine. But we have one problem. And as you see, they are created, but they are not deleted. And we will have some performance problems when they will be lots. So what we can do and what we should do, we should delete them after they will be in some position. So for example, let's drag our barrel one more time into our scene, and let's make it outside of our scene, and let's see position on the x-axis, and in my case it's minus 10.6. Yes, minus 10.6. So what we can do in this script, we can say that when our barrels will be outside of minus 10.6 mark, in your case this number might be different, just check yourself and just remember that number. And let's open our move left script, which is attached to our barrel, and work on it. So after our this transform of our barrel, we can say that if our transform dot position in the up, we should say here this in the update, if transform dot position dot x is less than minus 10.6, or what it was, I forgot, 10.6, yes. What we can do, we can simply say destroy, and in the parentheses we can say game object. And we can save this script and go back in Unity, and you will see that our barrels are indeed destroyed. So first let's delete this barrel from our scene, and let's hit play and see if everything works fine. Let's go back in scene view and see. Our barrel is respawned, but will it be deleted? And indeed, they are deleted, and this way we will have nice loop which will run forever basically until we tell him to stop, and they are deleting after a certain point, which is very handful and very good. Next thing that we are gonna do is to make our level restart when our player touches our barrel, and also we should create our enemy. And first let's click on the player and let's tick this mark for our player to be seen into our scene, and let's create enemy for us. And for it I have this free green something bird pack, and it has this flying animation. First let's see how it looks like, and it looks very big right now, and we don't need to have this big enemy because we will die. And instead we can also change these pixels per unit to be something like 600, and let's see how it looks like. Let's hit apply, drag it into our scene, and it looks much better, as you see. And let's delete from our scene because we want to have some animations. And let's select all of it. First of all, we need to change pixels per unit to be 600 for all of them. Hit apply. And just like we did with our player, we should select all of them and just drag them into our scene. And here we can say that it's enemy, animal, just enemy. We can save this. And now we will have this enemy animation. Of course, it also needs collider as other game objects into our game. So let's hit add component and let's type here polygon collider and hit apply. And if we press play, we will see that we have enemy, which is facing in a different direction, but we will change it very easily. And as you see, we have this enemy. And right now our enemy is facing in a different way, so we can select our enemy. First of all, let's change name to be enemy. And in the enemy, we can change this rotation on the y-axis to be 180. And as you see, it makes our enemy to look correct way. But we also want our enemy to have some movement, just like our barrels. So what we can do, we can just assign our move left script to our enemy as well. Move left. And let's make speed 3. And let's see if our enemy moves towards us. And very nice indeed. But when he touches nothing will happen. So we can restart our game when we touch our enemy or when we touch our barrel. And it will be super easy. All we have to do, we should create tags. And if we select our enemy and in the inspector top side, you will see this tag. And these tags are just used to have some very easy control of game objects. We can assign different tags to specific game objects. For example, we can create a tag. To create tag, you can click this add tag, click this plus sign, and here let's say trap with a capital T. Let's save, hit enemy one more time, and let's change this tag to be trap. We should do same for our barrel prefab, not barrel game object, but barrel prefab. And in the tag, we should change the name of tag. And we can open our player script, which is with the name of player, and outside our update, which ends here, we can say on collision enter 2D, hit enter, and it will auto compile for us. And what it does is, if you remember, our player, enemy, and barrel has this component of polygon collider. That's exactly why we need collider, to be able to detect collisions. So here we can say that if collision.gameObject.tag double equal trap, it means that if our player will touch something, some game object with the tag of trap, this trap we assigned to our enemy and barrel, we want to do something. And as you remember, just like we did when with our borders, we can say that scene manager dot load scene and the index will be 0. So our game will be restart, our level will be restarted. Let's save the script and let's go back in Unity and see if everything actually works fine. And let's hit play. And let's touch our enemy. And indeed our level restarts. Let's avoid our enemy if we can. And I want to touch this barrel to test. And indeed everything works fine. But right now we don't have anything to destroy our enemy, which is boring. I want my dragon to shoot some fireballs. And for it, I have this fireball pack. And let's drag this first one into our scene and let's see how it looks like. And it looks fine. We can obviously make it a little bit smaller. By the way, if you select this rect tool and if we click on the shift and resize it, it will resize in all of the way correctly. And I think it looks smaller now. Yeah, this will be our fireball, and this will be our bullet basically. For it, what we can do, we can first of all, let's save the scene, and into our player, let's hit with the right mouse button, create empty. Let's name it fire position. And this fire position will be position from where our bullets will go. So let's drag a little bit forward from our player. And let's select our bullet now. And we should add the rigid body for our bullet. Rigid body 2D. And let's freeze rotation on the Z and Y because we don't need any weird rotational movement. We also need to add collider. So type here polygon collider 2D. And our bullet is ready. One more thing that is left is to make prefab out of our bullets, as we did with our barrel. So let's drag our fire into our assets folder, and it will create prefab for us to use. We can delete this from our scene, and let's go in the scripts folder and create new script for our shooting. And create C# script I already have, and I called it fireball. You can call it something else, but just make sure to assign your fireball script into your player. And let's see if it's there. Indeed, it's here, fireball script. And let's open in Visual Studio and start working it. First, we need to have some variables. So public transform. And first one will be for our fire position. And the second one will be for our prefab. So public game object, and let's name it just bullet. And we don't need the start, so we can delete the start. But in the update, we can say that when we are touching our something, for example, our left mouse button, we want to shoot. So to do it, we can say that if input dot get mouse button down, and the parentheses, we can say 0. It means 0 means that we are touching our left, we are clicking our left mouse button, and we want to instantiate, we want to create our bullet. So type here bullet, and if you remember, this instantiate takes few more parameters. We need position from where we want to instantiate our bullet, and we have this fire position dot position. So from our fire position, we will be instantiated, and for rotation, we can say that fire position dot rotation, and we can save this script. Very easy script, and we can go back in Unity and see what will happen. Let your script compile. First, we need to assign few things into our player. Let's scroll down, and it has this fire position and bullet. For our bullet, we will assign our prefab of our bullet, of our fire, and fire position, we have this empty game object. Let's drag it here, and let's hit play and see. And when I'm touching this, my bullets are created, as you see, but they are not created very well right now, but they are instantiated. They are just not doing anything. So let's make our player to actually shoot our bullets. And for it, we need new script. So in the scripts folder, let's create one more script and let's call it projectile. And we should assign this projectile into our bullets. So what we can do, we should go in the prefab of our bullets, scroll down, and here we will add component, and name of our script is projectile. And it will add script to our bullet. Let's open our projectile script and let's start working in it. As usual, we need a few components. First, we need public float for our bullet speed, and let's name it bullet speed. And we need rigid body as well, so rigid body RB. And in the start, we should get our reference to our rigid body, just like we did with our player. So RB equals get component. Component name is obviously rigid body, parenthesis, semicolon. Now we are able to use our rigid body. And here, after our RB, we can say that RB dot velocity is equal transform dot right multiplied by bullet speed. It means that our bullet will have direction of the right, because we want right movement for our bullet, and we will have some speed which we will be assigned in the inspector, some bullet speed. Very easy. So we can save this script now. Use Control S or Command S if you are on Mac. And let's go back in Unity and see if everything works fine. Let your script compile. And first we need to go in the bullet prefab, scroll down, and we have this bullet speed, which we can do, for example, 6. And just to test, maybe it needs to be bigger number. And indeed, we are able to shoot, but when we hit our enemy, nothing will happen. So we want to actually kill our enemy when we hit him with our bullets, and we should also destroy our bullets when we hit our enemy. So first, let's work to destroy our enemy, and let's see what script our enemy has. It has this MoveLab script. So what we can do, we can, just like we did with our tags for our traps, for our enemy and barrels, we can create new tag for our bullets, for our fire. So let's select our fire, and in the tags, let's add tag. Click on this plus sign, and let's say here bullet with a capital B. Let's save it. Hit this bullet fire one more time, and let's assign this bullet tag into our fire. This way we can make our enemy to disappear very easily. All we need to do, we should open this MoveLab script, which is assigned to our enemy, and we can say here after our update, we can say on collision enter 2D. I hope you are already familiar with it by now. And here we can say that if collision.gameObject.tag double equals bullet, because tag name is bullet, what we want to do, we want to destroy our game object. And we can save this script very easy. So when something with a tag of bullets will touch our enemy will be destroyed. Very handy. Let's go back in Unity. Let your script compile and we will see. First, let's save our scene and let's hit play. And let's try to kill our enemy. Here it is. And indeed, our enemy is killed. And the next problem, as you see, is that our bullets are forever into our scene. Even when they kill our enemy, they are not destroyed. And we obviously don't need it at all. So what we can do, into our projectile, we can open, and we can do same as we did with our enemy. We can say here on collision enter and do exactly same. If collision dot game object dot tag double equals, but this way the tag name will be trap because trap tag is assigned to our enemy. So when our bullet will touch something with a tag of trap, we want to destroy our bullet game object. So we can save this script and let's go back in Unity and see if everything works correctly. And let's hit play. And indeed, our bullet is destroyed. The next problem that we have and we should fix is that yes, when we hit our enemy, our bullet is destroyed. But if we don't hit our enemy, our bullets are into our scene forever until we are playing, which is not the best way for our performance. And after some time, for example, after 5 minutes of spam shooting our bullets, our performance will be pretty terrible. So we should destroy our bullets after some time. We can open our projectile script, which is attached to our bullets, and add here before start awake function, which runs before start. And here very easily we can say that we want to destroy, and in the parentheses we can say game object and comma, and for example to F. It means that when we shoot our bullets, he will be destroyed after 2 seconds. We can make this 2 seconds to be 1 second or bigger number. Just play around with it and do as you like. First of all, let's see. And yes, our bullet is destroyed indeed after 2 seconds, as you see in my inspector. And very good. The next thing that we are gonna change is that our enemy does not have any kind of respawning like our barrel has, which is pretty bad. We only have one enemy. And just like we did with our barrel, we can have some respawning point. So let's create our enemy respawn point. And to do it, we can click on this empty space of the hierarchy, create empty, and let's name it enemy respawn point. Let's drag it to be here. This will be our point from where our enemies will be respawned, just like we did with our barrels. We will do exactly same if you remember what we did with our barrels. And we obviously need new script for it. So let's create new C# script. I named it enemy respawn. You can name it anything you want. Just make sure not to have any spacing in your script name because you will have error in that case. Just type enemy respawn without any space and let's drag our script into our game manager. And indeed it's here. Let's open in Visual Studio and let's work on it. Now for our barrels, where is our barrel? It has this MoveLab script, but we did it into our respawning. Yes. If you remember what we did with our respawn, when we did barrel respawning, we just used coroutines and respawned with a while loop. And we will do same for our enemy respawn. And we need public game object for our enemy, and it will be for our prefab that we will create. We also need public transform for our enemy respawn point. And we should create coroutine, and for it we need enumerator, and let's call it respawn enemy, and we need to run while loop to have some nice loop while true. We can create new floats, wait time, and we will create random range of numbers between 2 seconds and 4 seconds. By the way, this F we are using because we are working with floats, nothing complicated. And after we can say yield, return new, wait 4 seconds. And we need to wait for wait time. And after we can instantiate our game object, which is enemy, position, which is enemy respawn point dot position. And for rotation, we can say, just like we did with our barrels, enemy respawn point dot rotation. And in the start, we can say start coroutine. Name of it is respawn enemy, parenthesis, semicolon. And if we just save the script, we will encounter one problem. Even though we just did same with our barrels, one more thing here is not quite right, and I will show you what I mean. So let's go back in Unity and save your script, and let's open our game manager. We should assign this enemy and enemy respawn point. For our enemy, first we need to create prefab, just like we did with other elements. So let's drag our enemy into our assets folder, and let's delete it from our scene. We don't need it anymore. Let's save our scene, and into game manager we should drag our enemy prefab into enemy slot, and enemy respawn point we have here. Let's hide our player not to die just for a second, and let's hit play and see what will happen. And our barrel and our enemy is respawned, as you see, but they are respawning in the opposite way. Even though we changed this into our scene, we changed rotation to be 180. The original game object was positioned like this, with the face on the right side. We should make something to change that and to be able to create these game objects into our scene, but with the correct look on our player. And here we have this rotation, enemy respawn point dot rotation. And instead of this, we can multiply it by quaternion dot Euler. And here we can say that we want some rotation 0f 100f, because when we change 100 y on the 100, our enemy will look fine, and 0f. And we also need to add parenthesis here. We can save this script, and this quaternion.Euler allows us to rotate our game object while instantiated. Very handy way, and if we hit play right now, everything will work fine. And let's see. And indeed, it works fine. So let's make our player to be seen, and let's hit play, and let's enjoy what we did. We are our enemies. Yes, they are here. Let's kill them. And here we go, guys. You did this challenge. For some of you it might be your first game, for some it might not be, but anyway, it was the little fun challenge, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned some things. If you like this content and want to see more videos like this, please like this one and subscribe to my channel. Ring the notification bell not to miss any new upcoming videos, and thanks for watching. I see you soon.